Hello, this is the Death Row and Executions channel. My name is Paco Rivera. You can also follow me on Facebook for updates and more Death Row news. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. Also, check out my other channel here on YouTube called The Maximum Sentence, where I cover recent crimes and convictions. There will be a link for that as well. The state of Alabama has scheduled its fourth execution for this year in that state. 59-year-old David Lee Roberts is set to be executed on August 21st this year for a murder he committed in 1992. In April of 1992, Roberts, who was 26 years old, had been a house guest at the home of a friend named Wendell Satterfield. People, you have to be really careful who you allow to sleep in your home. Anyway, Roberts was using a bedroom located in the basement of that house. Now, Wendell had a girlfriend. Her name was Annetra Jones. Unfortunately, I don't have much information on the life of Annetra Jones, no pictures, and I don't even know what her age was. If I have to guess, because of the ages of others in her circle, she was probably in her mid-20s. Like I said, David Roberts was 26 at the time. Annetra did not live in that house, her boyfriend's house, in Marion County, Alabama. But of course, she was probably there a lot. Her boyfriend lived there. On April 22nd of the year 1992, David Lee Roberts got up in the morning and went to work. But he later left his job and went back to the house. By that time, Annetra's boyfriend, Wendell Satterfield, was no longer at the house. Now, reports seem to indicate that Roberts was extremely angry with Wendell over some disagreement or falling out that they had. So he left his job sometime around noon to go pack his stuff and move out. When he got home, he found Wendell's girlfriend, Annetra Jones, sleeping on a couch in the den of the house. Roberts would later say that he didn't know she was going to be there. Well, Roberts got a hold of a .22 caliber rifle from the house, walked over to where Annetra was sleeping, and then he went into her wallet and he took some money out of it. He then shot Annetra multiple times in the head with the .22 caliber rifle, killing her as she slept on the couch. Roberts then poured flammable liquid all over Annetra's body and on the floor around the den. He placed some paper under the couch where Annetra's body was, and he set fire to that paper. In the basement bedroom where Roberts was staying in Wendell's house, Roberts set another fire. Roberts then left the house, taking with him quite a few items that he stole from the house that included the murder weapon and several other guns, and he hid all of this evidence. Once again, there aren't a whole lot of details into the investigation, but one would have to surmise that David Roberts had immediately become a suspect. He left his job about noon and never returned. Annetra was murdered soon after that. All his belongings were missing from the burned up bedroom in the basement because he had packed all of it and left the house with his stuff. And he had a beef with the man that lived in that home who allowed him to stay there. During questioning, David Roberts confessed, and he later led detectives to where he hid the stolen items from the house. It appears there was a lot of talk about David Roberts entering an insanity defense because of his heavy use of LSD. But that defense didn't work for him. He went to trial in December of that same year, 1992, and he was convicted and sentenced to death. Actually, the jury had recommended by a vote of 7-5 that Roberts be sentenced to life imprisonment without parole, but the judge overrode that recommendation and sentenced Roberts to death anyway. And then that sentence was later thrown out on appeal, and 2 years later, in 1994, the same thing happened. A jury voted in favor of life, and the judge didn't agree with the jury and sentenced him to death again. So officially, he's been on death row since 1994. If I'm not mistaken, that law in Alabama has since changed, and a judge must now sentence convicted felons to life if the votes are not unanimous, all 12 votes for the death penalty. At trial, Roberts, possibly on advice from his lawyers, chose not to testify. But he did testify at his sentencing hearing after he was convicted. And I'm telling you, he had a story to tell. Because these criminals always have a story, don't they? That's why I refuse to interview death row inmates. Over the years, I have received messages here and on my Facebook that I should interview death row inmates as part of the presentation. No, because I have learned over the years that you're just going to hear a bunch of lies. So why bother? David Roberts, at his sentencing hearing, testified that 2 days before the crime, he was approached by an older individual who threatened him. That old man threatened to kill his mother and his father if he doesn't shoot and kill Annetra Jones and then burn down the house. So he took the threat seriously and did as he was told. This is what he told the court. Roberts had originally used this story when he was questioned by investigators, but first said that it was Wendell Satterfield, Annetra Jones's boyfriend, Wendell Satterfield, whose home Roberts was staying in, who had been the one that threatened to kill his parents. But by the time of the sentencing hearing, it appears he wasn't going to convince anyone of that, so he changed it from Wendell to an old man who he can't identify. They always have a story. Please go ahead and hit the subscribe button for more death row and upcoming execution stories so that you're alerted when the next one comes out. You can also follow me on Facebook for updates. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. My name is Paco Rivera. Take care and bye for now.